Today I'm going to talk to you about Freud. Sigmund Freud has been maligned in lots of ways in modern psychology today. I want you to understand that first of all, we don't think Freud is crazy or other things. He made some major contributions to the field of psychology, and we want you to understand that while some of his theories probably went a little too far, he was able to break the ground on some things that currently just hadn't been thought of, hadn't been discussed. Today we still use his forms of psychoanalysis. We still look at free association. There are still lots of things that Freud developed that we use today. One of those that has been sort of downplayed is his stages of psychosexual development. Freud studied his children and basically place those things into 5 different stages. The first being the oral stage, and I think if you really think about what Freud was trying to say, it makes a lot of sense. That from about the age of 0, according to Freud, up to about 18 months, he believed that children basically learn by putting everything in their mouth. Kind of interesting that that's exactly what they do. From the rooting reflex, we call it, all the way to when they can grasp, and the grasping reflex and grasp things, they put them in their mouths. That's how they learn. And so pretty much a child will put just about anything in their mouths, and that's why we have to put safety latches on cabinets and things like that. That's how they discover. That's how they learn. The second stage, according to Freud, was what we call the anal stage. And again, this is a critically important stage in a child's life. And Freud believes that it was during this time of potty training from about 1.5 to 3 years where children learn independence, where they learn to be confident in their own abilities to control themselves and to control things. And certainly controlling going to the bathroom is a critical component here in a huge stage of psychosexual development. I always told my students in psychology that you need to, if you ever have children and you go through this potty training era, that when they finally are able to control it and go in the potty, it's time to throw a party, throw a huge party, make a big deal out of it. It's good for their self-esteem. They understand control. You can imagine how a child would feel if they're constantly yelled at or screamed at or called stupid or other things when they're not able to accomplish. It's not easy. It's not easy to learn how to control your bladder and your bowel and then put it inside a little pot. So that's not easy when you're at that age. And while, yes, as we're older, we think it's easy, it's definitely a very important stage of development. The third stage is what Freud termed the phallic stage. And this is where from about 3 to 6, children are beginning to discover, certainly if they have little brothers or sisters or those kinds of things, they tend to discover that, oh, hey, somebody has something there that doesn't look like what I have. It's different. And this is where they touch themselves a lot. They do it in public. It's not abnormal. They don't understand that they're doing something that we as society might deem as inappropriate. And so they're certainly concentrating on that. They're focused on it. They want to discover what this thing is. And this is where there's also begins to be some what we call competition between the child, or conflict between the child and maybe the father over the attention and the affection of the mother, or vice versa. And this is when mommies and daddies hug. Little boys or little girls will sort of push in between you and try to push you apart, and then they want to climb, and little girls want to climb in daddy's lap, and little boys want to climb on mommy and hug and kiss, and they're modeling behavior they may have seen, and in some cases even when they don't see that behavior, they're vying for the attention of the opposite sex, and that's a part of the maturation process. The fourth stage is what we call the latency stage, and latency means those thoughts are latent. They're pushed back. Any psychosexual development's thoughts about what I have there and that I'm attracted to the opposite sex or anything like that, that's all gone. Nobody's thinking about it at this stage. They're developing. They're learning cognition skills and things. And they're certainly not focused on that. And that runs up from about 6 to the age of about puberty. And then, of course, in puberty on to adulthood, Freud said that we were basically in the genital stage. And the genital means that we are spend a great deal of time thinking about sex and thinking about our bodies. And you're certainly in the midst of puberty around this beginning of this stage. And from that time on, some would say young males think a lot about sex. Um, some females think a lot about sex. So it's understandable. This is what, at the time when your body is beginning to mature, both of you can produce children, and that's what your body is telling you to procreate. And so all the things that the production of hormones and all that go along with that cause things to occur in your brain and in your body, and you're reacting to that. And this is where we want to attract the opposite sex. So while Freud said some stuff about little boys and little girls being afraid of being emasculated and things like that, those are the things we think took it too far and maybe way out in left field somewhere. That does not mean, once again, however, that we want to throw Freud out. Freud had a lot to say, a lot of very intelligent things to say, and it's wise to listen to what he had to say. Thank you.